Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
And Tane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. And I think this is episode number 88 or 89. So as always, I don't know the count. Whenever you're listening, it might be episode number 1 for you. So thank you for joining us. If you're an all-time listener, thank you for coming back. If you're a new listener, welcome to this crazy ride of our podcast, and hopefully you enjoy our other podcasts as well. Tane, how have you been, and what have you done in the last week to put some knowledge in your basket? Because I didn't have you last week.
Yeah, I know. So I hate missing podcasts, but I'm here now, so that's the main thing. Yeah, it's been a busy couple of weeks. I guess from an injury perspective, I've learnt how long injuries can be and how painful the health system can be sometimes. But anyway, that's hopefully getting at the end of my knee injury now, which hopefully I get good news next week, and then I can carry on and move into summer. And then probably from a different perspective, I think something that I've learned over the last week or so, because I've been very much go and away for the last couple of weekends with coaching and stuff like that. But I think sometimes, we do our time management so well, but we don't find times to do things that we actually want to do. For example, last weekend I went and caught up with my brother, which was nice to just, go and see him, and there was no agenda. There was no, certain things that we had to get done. So it was really nice to just be able to relax with that time. And the same, with Otago Polyfest here in Dunedin this week, actually going to see, take some time out of my day to actually go and see some of those amazing performances that are going to happen this week. Which again, it's easy to be like, oh, I'm too busy. I'll just let it pass and, wait for next year. But then it becomes a problem of you're always going to say that to things. So I think, sometimes you have to prioritize some of those things that even though you might see them as just a want, still fulfilling those wants because it fills your cup.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously two different things there. Hopefully, with your sporting injury, hopefully that goes through quite well, and that you come out as unscathed as possible. But your second one is really interesting, because I think this is something that I've also learned as well, is the word busy. We just throw the word busy all the time. I'm too busy. I'm busy. How many times you talk to somebody and they go, "How are you doing?" "Oh, I'm so busy." And that word busy is actually, I find it's a negative word. It's a negative word in terms, what do I mean by that? It's just a word we just chuck in there, but we don't actually think about what you're busy with. So you go, "Hey, what are you actually busy with?" And when you ask that question, people are like, "Oh, it's all about work or about things that are ticking boxes." Whereas what you've just said before, sometimes it's okay not to tick a box and just go, "Hey, I'm just doing this because I want to." And unfortunately, sometimes society has made us think that it's bad to have wants, and you've always got to have needs. But you go, "I actually want to just enjoy Polyfest, because why not? Just for me, no agenda, no ulterior motive, just me, just going to chill." And so I think that's important. I think that's important for us all to learn about. Just to throw the word busy, and I try not to use the word busy anymore. I try to replace that word with something a bit more meaningful. And that's a challenge for me, because I get caught in that time all the time. So yeah. For those of you that are listening, and if you catch me out saying busy next time, just call me up and be like, "You said you're not going to use the word busy." Okay, cool. So anyway, that's enough of us rambling and ranting on and on and on. As always, for our listeners, Tana and myself are pretty privileged. We get to scour the country, scour the world, to find some people that we think we're amazing. And as like I say every week, we think everyone is amazing. And I wish that we could do this all day, every day. Anyone wants to sponsor us, that'll be amazing. So just putting it out there. But at the moment, we can't do that there. But that doesn't stop us from finding amazing things and amazing people and amazing things to talk about. And this week, we'd like to introduce our very, very talented and amazing guest, Rishita. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Super stoked.
Fantastic. Rishita, tell us a bit about yourself. So tell us, listeners, who you are, and then we'll get into our conversation.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Rishita Bharani. I'm 18, currently living in Auckland. I was born and raised in India. I was living in India for about 9 years before my family and I moved to South Africa, which was in 2015. Then we were in South Africa in Joburg for about 5 years. Then in 2020, we decided to move to New Zealand, where we were in Hawke's Bay for the entirety of 2020, which is when COVID hit. Then start of 2021, we moved to Auckland, and I've been here ever since.
Crazy. 18 years old and already such a crazy, amazing story so far. Before I even talk about some of that stuff there, I just want to say to our listeners out there, getting Rishita on this podcast has been the most amazing conversation in the background. So a week ago, she messaged me to go, actually, I've lost my voice. I don't know if we can do this here. And through the power of whatever we've done, she's here. So we really appreciate you. And I'm glad we can hear your voice, which is fantastic. So thank you for that there. Now let's talk about your story. I mean, you've had some amazing. You're born in India, has raised in India a little bit. They went to South Africa, and then in New Zealand at the moment, and you're off to the UK in a few weeks' time. So pretty crazy. Let's talk about some transition points there for you. So moving from India to South Africa at that transition point, what is that like for you? Where you go from a place where everyone looks like you to a place where it's a little bit different?
I love that everyone looks like me. Of course, it was very hard. Like leaving the place I call home. Only 9 years old, so it was pretty hectic, and I didn't know what to expect. And I just knew that I was really sad, leaving my friends and family, and nothing else was home for me except India at that point. Of course, I was excited, new country, new place. I think I was starting year 6, so kind of finishing primary school, because in India, primary school finishes in year 5. So it's kind of like a perfect transition phase for me, starting middle school in like a different country, but also South Africa. Like, don't even know where that came from. Very, very like untraditional way of like moving to South Africa, but it was amazing.
Beautiful. And the reason I say you had a bit of a chuckle about everyone looked like you is because I was the other way around. I grew up in Zimbabwe, and then I went to India once as an adult, and I looked. I was like, wow, everybody here looks like me, and I was like, there's nowhere else in the world where that happens, right? For if you're Indian, and I guess Tana, this is something that you're yet to find, right? Because it's very hard for you, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you find that place in New Zealand, but you're right, it is quite different because it is, we've got so much diverse people in this country, but at the same time, you've got to, and that's something you have to go and sometimes go and find people that are similar to you so that you can break some of those barriers. And it's not necessarily always a case of the barriers of society, but sometimes it's a barrier of you finding yourself.
Yeah, totally. And I use the word look, but actually there's a lot more. Physically we might look the same, but we are totally different people, right? So I always have a chuckle when I'm sure this happens to you, Rishita, when you jump into a taxi and people go to you, what part of India are you from? I'm like, I'm not from India. And they get blown away. Like, what are you talking about?
Like, what?
Yeah.
But you're
crazy.
brown,
Yeah, but you're brown, exactly. So it's so crazy. South Africa was pretty influential and pretty monumental for you because when you were in South Africa, you also jumped on stage to do a TED talk. Let's talk about that there and what was the inspiration behind you doing that there, because not everyone does that. So was this something that you were, as a family or as a young person, very motivated by, that, hey, you actually want to challenge status quo and talk about things?
So funny story, actually, talking about stereotypes. My mum was the digital technology teacher in my school in South Africa. I've sort of always followed her footsteps, and like I always go to school wherever she teaches. So she was like the technology kind of leader. She used to do all things technology, and I'm still not interested in technology. It was really funny. But as like growing up, I would always watch TED Talks with my family, and like my parents would always, be like, "Oh, this is really inspirational. You should watch this." Kind of coming of age, growing up, figuring out what I want to do in life. So my mum was organizing the event, and she said, "Well, you have to speak." And I said, "What if I like really don't want to?" And she said, "I think it'd be a good opportunity." I was like, I guess I don't have a choice. So that was the story of why I did it. But I'm honestly glad I did. Like I would have completely regretted it if I didn't. And it was really cool. I think it was a group of 8 students across years 8 to 12, and we all came together. We would meet like twice a week when the preparations were coming along, and we all sort of decided on a topic to speak about. And then on the final day, we just sort of booked the hall, and then there was like cameras running and like lighting. It was really cool. And we just kind of spoke, and it felt like a real TED talk. Like the audience was a bit small, but the experience was the same. It was really cool.
Great. And your topic, how did you choose the topic, coffee beans? Let's talk about that there. Yeah.
Yeah. My topic was really funny, I'd say. Traumatized coffee beans. So this was a transition where I was sort of figuring out who I was, and I think it was a few years I'd already been in South Africa. So I was used to the transition, getting used to the new place, new people, new curriculum, new school, new everything. So I was sort of falling into the experience of what it was like to be away from home in this new place. So my topic was about bullying, and it was um, inspired by the story I read online about this new kid in a new school who was bullied. Now, I wasn't bullied in my new school, but that really resonated with me because it's like I could have easily been bullied. I could have easily been that one untouchable person with the plague that I explained in my TikTok. So I was grateful that I didn't get to experience that, but also I feel like a lot of people, especially young kids, they're like bantering and everything. It's so easy to get picked up on. So I thought that's something good to speak about. And I don't actually know where I got the title from, but I just know that I used to that was the transition where I kind of fell in love with coffee. So I was like coffee beans, but like a little twist to it, like traumatized, because I spoke about how we're all like coffee beans, like each unique shaped, and like we might be different, like same color, which is like what makes us like equal, right? But we're all like different shape, different flavor. So yeah, that was pretty unique.
I as I do with my podcasts, I did a bit of research and I watched a video last night as I was doing preparation, and I was like, I mean, how old were you at that point, Rishita?
I think I was 14 or
13. 14, yeah. And for someone that is 14 or 13, just the topic I mean, the topic was funny, but the layers of the conversation that you spoke about was really, really, really insightful, which is why I think this is why you're on this podcast here, because there's a lot of layers and depths to you. And what we'll do for our listeners, we'll put the if you don't mind, we'll put the YouTube link so people can listen to it as well, so you can see what we're talking about, because it's a layered conversation that could apply to anybody. You've mentioned bullying, but for me, I took up other things from there that were not linked to bullying. So I'm glad you said bullying, because I picked up something totally different, which is cool, which is what a good talk does. It goes lots of layers.
Yeah, that's so good to hear. You can really hear my South African accent there. It's really funny.
Exactly, yeah, which is pretty cool, because your accents have obviously melded and changed over time, which is
yeah,
good,
exactly.
which is crazy. Talking about changing time, so you do your time in South Africa, and then you do your time here in South Africa, and then you so here you go, you leave home, you find a new home, and then just as you get adjusted to that, they're like, hey, guess what? We're going to the other side of the world again. What is that like? Because you're at a different formative stage of your life.
So again, I was like, are you serious? You have to leave again? But it's okay. I was really excited. Again, the transition was kind of perfect because I had finished grade year 10 in South Africa. So starting a high school here in New Zealand, there were some challenges though in terms of like curriculum changes, because of course I was getting older, so it was harder to adapt and stuff. And also New Zealand I was doing NCA, so year 13 education, where South Africa was just, and even India was just year 12. So I was a little bit bummed about, one more year of school, why? And South Africa, I was doing Cambridge in school. And when I came to New Zealand, I joined Havelock North High School in Hawke's Bay, which didn't offer Cambridge. So I had to switch to NCA. And from year 10, I went to year 11, which was a little bit of a shock, from Cambridge to NCA. Not only like new country, new people again, also really, really exhilarating story. I think it was a Thursday that I landed in New Zealand, and that Sunday, so my mum came to New Zealand like a month before my whole family, because I had exams. So my dad and my sister, my younger sister, we were in South Africa waiting for me to finish exams. And my mom came to New Zealand because she was the one who got the job here first. So it's sort of like settling in and stuff, finding a school for us. So she was here and she made some friends and she found some friends for me. So we all decided to go to Splash Planet. I don't know if you guys have heard of it in Hawke's Bay. Pretty exciting. Um, like literally the weekend where like the first weekend here. So I was really excited. I love like water parks and anything adrenaline. So I was really excited. And then like with my new friends, I was like, oh my gosh, I've been here 2 days and I already have friends. Look at me go. It was so cool. I was really excited. And then we're going go-karting, right, in Splash Planet. And I was like high on adrenaline and I've never been go-karting and I was super excited. And that kind of resulted in me crashing into a pole while I was like swerving on my last round because I was so competitive. I wanted to win and I was doing so good. So that kind of karma hit me and I bumped into this pole and I fractured my toe. It was really funny. I landed in like the A&E that day, literally 3 days into New Zealand, and my dad was in Auckland at that time because he was working in Auckland. And he was like, "Are you serious? We've been here like 48 hours and you're already like going crazy." So that was funny. So when I started school, I was like not even the new girl. I was a new girl in the moon boot, which was really like a nickname you don't want. So that was like it was a funny start. It was exciting.
What a crazy start, You can just blame this jet lag. Oh, jet lag. Sorry, guys, jet lag. That's what it is.
I should have done
Didn't see the
that.
poll. Didn't see the poll. Now, India, big country, lots of population. Johannesburg, big population. Havoc North. What is that like for you and your family where you go from big population, lots of people, busy, big population, busy, to Havoc North?
Yeah, no, you're right. It was a very small city compared to, Johannesburg and Delhi, where I was in India. So two big cities to a small city, and like even New Zealand as a country is pretty small. So, but I honestly loved it. Like, I would say, even after moving to Auckland, fast forwarding a little bit, out of all the big cities, I've loved Havelock North the most. I don't know, maybe that's just me being in a small city, being so close to everything, and like everyone knowing everyone, like a small united sense of community. I really loved it there. Of course, like the opportunities were like a bit condensed because small place and same people, and like you can't, like, it was just like Hawke's Bay and then Napier and that was pretty much it. But I honestly loved it. I loved the small community, the little how everyone knew each other. That was really lovely.
Beautiful. And that's when COVID hit, right? When you moved to Auckland, or was it before?
Yes.
So you're in Hawke's Bay for how many years?
So Hawke's Bay, I was 2020.
Yep.
It was my mum and my little sister because my dad was working in Auckland, and that's when COVID hit, and it was just a bit difficult to like, with family. My dad coming to Hawke's Bay all the time, so we decided to move to Auckland because just bigger city, more opportunities. And at that time, I was planning to study at University of Auckland, so I thought I'm going to move here in like 2-3 years anyway. Why not just move now? So we collectively just decided to move to Auckland, start of 2021.
Awesome. And what is lockdown for you? Because the reason I ask this question is because as you've left a family in India, you've left a family in South Africa, and you land here, and within a few months' time, it's hey, it's literally just your bubble. What is that like for you as a family? As a family unit, because obviously your parents have sacrificed a lot for you to get to where you are, and now you go, actually, hey, it's only the three of us at home.
Yeah, exactly. So my dad actually came like a day before lockdown, so it was perfect timing. Yeah. And you're right, like the bubble sort of really made us reflect like on everything we've done together as a family, leaving India and leaving South Africa, deciding this sort of new adventure together. I was, just entering into high school. My sister, she's 6 years younger than me, so she was also like starting primary school, I think. So it was a big, and both new jobs for my parents as well, new country, of course. So it was a big move for all of us. So we could sort of come together in that kind of way and just resonate to each other about us, all of us being nervous in this new place. So lockdown was actually pretty good because we were like, we don't know anything about this new place, and while we want to go out and explore more, we're like stuck in a house, right? But we can like get to know more. Like Hawke's Bay was so, it was so lovely, and like everyone was so welcoming. So it was so nice to see how even in lockdown, everyone would go on like walks together in the evening, which was really nice because you could like we could sort of understand New Zealand without even exploring it, if that makes sense, which was really good. Even online school, it was like the teachers are so supportive, right? Even online. So you can learn so much about New Zealand, like I said, even if you were just in a bubble at home.
That's beautiful. I like that because there's two ways to look at any situation. There's the oh no, doom and gloom, and yes, it is doom and gloom for some people, because of different situations. For some people, hey, it's actually an opportunity. So it's really really beautiful to see how your family connected, especially with all the trouble going on. Now
Exactly.
I'm gonna shift a little bit and talk about when did you get into the space of volunteering, because this is a big part of your I'm going to use the word CV. You just see volunteer all over the place. How did you get involved? Because initially you're like, oh, my mom was like, you should do this here. And to be the TED Talk. Was the volunteering something that came from you, or was it something that you were like, oh, I'm bored, so therefore I'm going to do this? Well, how did you get into it? And also the whole range of different places you've been involved in.
Great question, because I love volunteering and it is a huge part of who I am. I think it definitely started in South Africa when I first left home in India, and I was trying to branch out, trying to step out of my comfort zone, trying to, learn about the country, learn about new people there, new school. So I think it started in my first school in South Africa, where I just tried to get involved in the school activities and try to. So this was when I first left home, so I was like super conserved and super, I don't know how to feel. And like, what are all these people, so much culture. I was only used to like the culture in India. So that's when I first um stepped into volunteering, because I wanted to get to know the country better. I wanted to get to know my friends better at my new school, and I wanted to step out of my comfort zone to basically just make more friends and get involved. And that just, I don't know, would involve into so much, like to the point where wherever I go, I sort of just fall into volunteering, and I just really love it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It's beautiful because over the weekend I gave a leadership talk at a school, which I was pretty lucky to do, and I spoke about
Awesome.
social emotional intelligence was the topic I spoke about, and one of the things that is part of social emotional intelligence is empathy, the feeling of empathy. And empathy, as we all know, is looking at people, trying to perceive someone's life from their shoes, which is really hard to do. No one can do that there, right? So how do you do that there? You get involved in the community. So, for you, that was being a volunteer. And by that way, like you said, you made friends, but it wasn't about making friends. That's the title. But it's about actually learning about culture and learning about what those people are like in this new world that you're living in. And I think that's the beauty of volunteering.
Exactly.
And Tana, you do some volunteering as well. Should we talk about that there?
Yeah, definitely. The last, I guess since the start of my university journey, it's probably been more of a conscious decision to make volunteering, because I guess growing up in high school and stuff, you get involved with things and committees or this and that, and you help out, but you don't really consciously think about it. It's probably more those external factors like making friends or hanging out with friends, etc. But I guess once I came down to university, I just realized that there's so many things that you'd love to give a try, have a go, or become a part of a community, but without having to sacrifice doing a part-time job there, or stuff like that. So it allowed me to look at these other avenues from a broader perspective without having to fully commit to something full time. But it also allowed me to just see so many different avenues that you probably wouldn't otherwise have a look into. And that's not to say that every volunteering opportunity was great. There's some things that I had done once and realized that it wasn't for me, but it allows you to strengthen your identity. It allows you to show empathy to other people around you, and it enables you to just really determine what your values are. Because it's one thing to stick it out and study or stick it out and work, because these are long-term things that you really have to do. But I think with some of these volunteering opportunities, it really enables you to sit down and reflect on what your values are and how you're reflecting yourself, whether you're volunteering for an organization or you're representing something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, and I think that's beautiful. I think Rashida, you've the amount of volunteering you've done across different kind of things. Is there one particular one that really resonates with you? And I'm going to link that back to what Tanya said before. How you find your values, and as you were growing, did you find that the more you got involved with all the different organizations, the more you discovered your values are? Because values is really
Exactly.
hard. Values is a really hard thing to talk about, but actually very easy to talk about as well. It's a paradox. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how
Like
did you find that?
stepping.
Sorry, how did you find that?
No. Um, that's exactly right. Like you put it so beautifully, Tane. Like how you kind of learn about yourself as you volunteer. That was actually the case for me as well. And because I was getting to know myself and because I had moved around so much already, I was like, who am I? What am I even doing? Where to from now, you know? So one thing was like stepping out of my comfort zone and then giving back to the community, getting involved with the community. I was learning about other people and I sort of learned stuff about myself through that. I would do things that surprised me, like I probably wouldn't have done if I didn't start volunteering, and done some things like volunteering at the local like rest home. I was so inspired by like the stories I heard from the elderly there. And if I wouldn't have gotten involved in volunteering, I wouldn't have found that about myself, that I actually love listening to people. I love hearing their stories. I love being there for them at their most vulnerable stages. So yeah, definitely what you said was really, really
And I
true.
know, and I love that because I'm just going to list all the things that you've been a volunteer. So you have
Mm,
you're at, like you said, Retirement Center, World Vision, Habitat for Humanity, Peace Foundation, Shape for a Cure, Cystic Fibrosis, Kids Can, Red Cross, Leukemia, and Blood Cancer New Zealand. So there's tons of things there. But one thing that I think is
mm,
linking them all is the word health.
mm,
Let's talk about health, and also you have a personal mission that I've been
mm.
told about, that you want health to be accessible and equitable to everybody. That's one of
Mm.
your drivers. Is that correct? Or
Yeah,
is that
absolutely,
yes?
absolutely.
And where
My
do they come
mission
from?
statement, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Where do they come from? Where did this drive? And again,
Mm,
linking back to the volunteering, or maybe not, where did they come from?
mm. Honestly, I don't know where exactly that derived from. I think it all just sort of led to that moment, sort of just shaped my experiences and kind of led me to this um, perfect thing for me, right? Like healthcare. Um, so like I said, when I was volunteering at the rest home, I loved listening to people. I loved listening to their stories. And what I realized was that at the end of the day, your health is most important, whether it be your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. Like if you're calling in sick to work, at the end of the day, it's your health that matters, you know? If you're like calling in rain check on like a hangout or something, it's your health again. So I realized that at the end of the day, it all boils down to like how you are, how you're doing mentally, emotionally, physically. So that was, I think, a wake up call. Like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to make a difference in the world. And another thing I realized was people don't care about their health. They don't think it's important. It's the least of their worries. And that concerned me because, like I said, at the end of the day, it's most important. What's most important is your health. So I made it my mission to um, fight for people, to help them understand that their health is more important. It's actually a human right. Like if you're not feeling well, why are you suppressing your feelings? You should be addressing them, you know?
Yeah, I love that because I don't think I think it's people take health for granted. So it's
Exactly.
not that they look up and take it for granted, and it is. I mean, you don't take. It's quite
Mm,
crazy. In fact, in all aspects of life, until something bad happens, you're not aware of it, and then once you become aware of it,
exactly.
you're cool. So I guess go, hey, let's just be more aware,
Mm,
conscious of our own health. And I love you said that because
mm,
in my coaching program that I run, I ask
mm,
people, I say to people, hey, how do you be a successful leader? And they all tell me all these things here. You got to have this great idea. You got to
mm,
have this here. You got to have a great idea. You have to have good people. You have to have money. Blah 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 blah. All these things here, and I just tell them they're all incorrect. All they're incorrect. I'm like, what are you talking
mm,
about? And I just comes down to you have to have good health,
mm.
because
Exactly.
if you don't have good health, you can be the richest person in the whole wide world. You can be, but if you don't look after your health, like you said before, it's everything just crumbles. But also on conversely, on saying that there's some people, and through your mission statement, some people are not afford the luxury. They can't do that there because of the situation. And sometimes the situation is too expensive. I can't go to see a doctor or a mental health person. So I guess, has that been your driver because your mission statement is it's got to be equitable and everyone's got to hit. What is, so that specific thing, what has been your right call? This has got to be for everyone, not just those that think they need it.
So a lot of factors. So I grew up in India, right, in Delhi, which isn't the poverty capital, but poverty is everywhere in India. Even in South Africa, I got to witness that. I would see like beggars on the street. It would just break my heart. And then New Zealand, I didn't sort of witness the poverty, but I learned about it. And when I started sort of getting into healthcare and stuff, and I thought everyone deserves health as a human right, everyone deserves water to drink, everyone deserves healthcare just like that. That's why I sort of learned that no matter where you come from, no matter where you're going, no matter your background, your culture, again, at the end of the day, it depends on how you're doing as a person, as your mental and emotional, physical health. So that's where sort of I was like, wherever you are, wherever I am, I want to make a difference, where I want people to know that their health matters. And like you said, people might not be able to afford healthcare. And that's what I want to change. I want people to feel like they deserve healthcare. And just because they can't, afford like a 15-minute appointment with a GP doesn't mean that they don't deserve it. It doesn't mean that their health isn't important. Just because they can't see a doctor doesn't mean that their voices and their concerns shouldn't be heard.
Beautiful. Talking about opportunities and taking and having something to aspire to. Let's talk about your Girl Boss Scholarship. What is that like for you, and what doors that open up for you? Because that's an amazing organization to be involved in.
Oh, absolutely. So I first heard about Girl Boss when I moved to New Zealand in year 11. And I don't exactly remember, but when I did Girl Boss Healthcare this year in April, I like instantly remembered that I remember applying for the same program in year 11, but I think I was a few months, I think it was 16 was the age limit or something, and I was 15 or something like that. I was a little short of the requirements, but whatever it was, I didn't get in. And I realized that it was the same program I got into this year in April, which was really like a full circle moment. It was really amazing. And I did the healthcare holiday program, the 10-day holiday accelerator program, which was really awesome. I got to connect with these doctors, and then I'm still connected with them to this day. Like I message them and I'm like, hey, remember me? So yeah, I really like love to annoy those doctors. And we did this healthcare challenge where I spoke about specifically, I think it was about healthcare again as a human right, which is where my mission statement came from actually. And then that led me to apply to the We the Woman Hackfest, which was the beginning of July this year. And that was more about technology, more about women, reinforcement of women in technology and gender equality and everything. So I wasn't that, like, the way I'm interested in healthcare, I wasn't that interested in technology, but I've always been interested in gender equality. Being a woman of color myself, I've always experienced that discrimination. So I've always wanted to, learn more about that, which is what led me to apply to We the Woman. And I was stoked when I got accepted because I didn't think it was a platform for me because I was not like a technology girl. So I was really glad to attend that because that gender equality even reinforced my passion in healthcare because of the female. Okay, let's talk about like surgery, right? There used to be more male surgeons than female surgeons, and now female surgeons are the dominant in surgery. So like I said, gender equality is everywhere, and me joining healthcare as a woman, I'm glad that I'm going to that dominant area now.
Here's a crazy question. What did your mom think about that? Because full cycle technology.
Oh, she was like, really? Like, are you, when I was applying, I was like, I don't think I should apply for this. Like, it's technology. But I always apply for everything, even though I know it's not for me. So even my dad, he's a software engineer. So both my parents are into IT. Even my youngest sister, she's very tech savvy. So everyone was like, okay, like, this is not you, but okay, go for it. So I was like, look at me go, guys. I'm going into technology.
Yeah, it's crazy. They must be like, oh wow, this is our
Yeah.
child. Yes, thank you. Here's affirmation. This is our affirmation. Crazy. I'm going to go back a little bit to something you said that caught my attention. Was you said you always apply for things, even if you don't think they're for you. Where does that drive come from? Because some people just look at application and go, oh, okay, cool, I'm not going to apply because it's not relevant. Is that something that's instilled from you, or you just want to give yourself a go? Why do you do that there actually?
A little bit of both. So when I was beginning to step out of my comfort zone, when I was beginning to seek opportunities, I I was like, nothing's meant for me. Like, this was when I first was in South Africa, and I said, why would I be involved in this? This is not my community. I just moved here. I don't even belong here. But when I wanted to, learn more about myself, learn more about the South African community, get involved, is when I first started stepping out of my comfort zone, seizing opportunities, and I loved it. I was like, this is something I wouldn't normally do. Probably if I was in India, I would just be at home.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that someone needs to like move countries to step out of your comfort zone, but just like really saying yes to whatever you see. And I've always been passionate about like people and like getting to know people. So stepping out of my comfort zone, meeting new people, I was like, just YOLO it, just saying yes to everything, pretty much.
And that's so true, because a lot of us will say no because of this crazy term called imposter syndrome. Like you said, why am I good enough? Why? And
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't like the word imposter syndrome. I think it's a terrible word, because syndrome implies it's a health condition and something wrong with you.
Exactly, very hefty.
So we're not going to use that word there. We're going to use the word imposter experience.
Oh, I love that.
Okay, imposter experience, because it's just at that moment that you're experiencing imposter-ness, whatever that is.
Yeah.
Because it's not a long-lasting thing. And as you said, you have at that moment to
Exactly.
go, in this experience, what I want to do. Do I apply and say it's what happens and then grow from the experience, or do I not apply and have another experience? So you had that here, guys. Imposter experience, write that down. Just kidding. So yeah, but Tana, you've had the same experience as well. You volunteered for things and just tried things out. Oh, sorry, rephrase that. Applied for things, even though you go, what should I do? Because we've had a lot of conversations about that. What has that been like for you as well? Because some things you've got, some things you haven't got.
Yeah, I think it's given me a lot of perspective in terms of how you deal with, as we've talked about previously, about around this rejection and what it means, not just at the time but also longer term. But I think also it's allowed me to realize how much more potential other people see in you that you don't see in yourself. And I think sometimes we reflect too much on, I'm not good enough because I don't think I'm good enough, therefore I'm not going to go for it, rather than there's other people that might see potential in me where I don't see potential in me. And I think that's something that's big, and particularly, for young people in general, and, also older people, but I think more so in younger people, it's that fear of, I don't believe in myself enough, so I'm not going to apply, even if there are great support systems around you. And I think that's something that comes from doing that first application and seeing that things can happen. And I guess that was my experience with hands-on at Otago, where my physics teacher told me to apply, and at the time I was like, well, I'm not going to get the scholarship, so there's not really much point in applying, but I still done it anyway, and then I managed to get the scholarship. And I think for something so small like that to happen, it just opens up so many more doors that otherwise it could have completely changed my whole pathway down university. So yeah, sometimes it's just those small things, but I guess it's about how can we change those perceptions about ourselves, and then all that external stuff can be fixed. But I think first we have to look internally as to what our beliefs are in ourselves.
I totally understood that. The same thing with you, right? If you hadn't applied for with the woman the hack fest, you wouldn't have gone there, and you wouldn't have learned about the gender equality stuff. Even though there was one part, but I'm pretty sure you learned a lot about the tech world and all these crazy women that are doing some pretty cool things in tech, which is really cool.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about, we've done all this cool stuff here. Now let's talk about academics. So here you are, you finish up school, and obviously health is really something that you're really passionate about. What happens then? So you finish up school, and now you've got to apply to go to universities. And like you said, just before you moved to Auckland because University of Auckland was the place where you thought you wanted to go. And let's talk about that then, how that journey has been for you.
Okay. So, like I said, healthcare always been my number one passion, number one priority. Always knew I wanted to go into healthcare. Always knew that healthcare is it for me, you know. So, that sort of was my drive into medicine, passion into medicine, and always sort of interested me in how I can make a difference, how if I want my voice to be heard about healthcare as a human right, about getting people, no matter where they are in the world, to access healthcare, how that can be, you know. So I knew that doesn't have to be medicine necessarily, but ever since I was a young girl, it was always medicine for me. I'd always sort of looked up to studying medicine. So I was first, when I was in year 11, year 12, I was looking into Auckland, also Australia. Reason being, New Zealand doesn't have direct entry into medicine. They only had after first year health science or biomed, which I think is awesome. It's like foundation year, which also kind of you know for sure this is what you want to go into, and you can also like switch to something else after first year. So I think that's really essential. But I was really worried that I wouldn't get into medicine after first year. So that's when I started looking into Australia because they had direct entry into medicine. But I was an international student. I still am an international student. So applying to Australia, I didn't count as domestic, counted as international. So I had very less seats. Like I remember I wanted to go to Sydney, University of Sydney for medicine. They have an exceptional medicine program, but they literally have 10 international seats. So for me, applying to Sydney was like my dream university. But then really kind of really put me in my place when I said 10 places in the whole world. You know, what are the chances? Plus, like New Zealand students are usually considered domestic. So I thought they'd probably just like toss my application in the bin. So I was really kind of concerned, really stressed about that. But then I applied to a few Australian universities where I could, and applied to Auckland for health science and biomed and Otago. But because I knew that medicine is the way to go, this is what I want to study, and I knew I wouldn't change my mind, I applied everywhere I could, which is where I found St. George's, a University School of Medicine, and I love their approach of kind of the experience you go through medical school, like going to different campuses, going to different cities, to theory and practical bits. And I really love that. And I honestly never ever thought of going there. I did apply because, like I said, everything I see, I'd be like, oh, apply, yes, tick, you know. But I never saw myself going there. It was so far away from home, so far away from family. It was like it's like a dream, you know, like going to Grenada. Their original campus is in Grenada. So like studying medicine by the beach, that's not even real, you know. So I was only looking at Australia. And and I managed to like go into the interview stage for some universities in Australia, but I didn't get accepted into medicine. So that's where I kind of got stuck between either doing health science in Australia, health science in Auckland, or medicine in St. George's. And one tricky thing was because St. George's starts in September, their application process is very different. They start very late. So in Auckland, you know, you'd finish high school in December, you'd start university like February, and kind of decide by January, right? Their course starts in September, so their acceptances only roll out like May, June. So for me to decide between health science at either Australia or Auckland or medicine at St. George's was hard in terms of the application timeline. So I had to put in a request to St. George's saying, you know, I have a deadline here. If I start studying biomed here and I have to unenroll, I'd have to pay fees everywhere. So I had to kind of give them like a little special consideration if you could kind of push the application process a bit early for me, and they did. But again, they can't change everything, you know. So it was really dramatic. I ended up choosing Auckland over Australia to study health biomed, because you know Auckland being close to family, and if I was to go to St. George's, I wouldn't be in Australia. I'd still be at
Yep.
home. So I was started studying biomed here at Auckland. Really funny, dramatic story. 2 weeks into my biomed course, I got accepted into St. George's, and it was so funny. It was 2 days before the unenrollment deadline here at Auckland. I think it was a Friday midnight, you know, unenrolled deadline. And I think I unenrolled like Thursday midnight, like really last minute. So I wanted to pay fees everywhere. So I impulsively kind of, okay, I'm gonna unenroll from Auckland, and then I decided I'd, you know, commit to St. George's. And if I knew that medicine was the answer, so I thought I should just follow my guts. And you know, it's scary. St. George's, like the entire process is really untraditional, but like I said, I knew I wanted to study medicine, so I don't care where I go, I don't care where it is, as long as it's following my dream. So that was
Yeah, I like that because, you know, Tanya and myself have seen lots of young people where medicine is the goal. I mean, you know, we know that this is a goal for a lot of young people, but for some people, they have to do the health side or the biomedia to realize actually this is not what they really want to do. It was a seed planted by somebody else as opposed to their own seed. And I think this is what we see many times, that some people think they need to be a doctor or engineer or lawyer because someone planted the seed for them as opposed to they've planted themselves. Whereas for you, it's pretty obvious that the seed was planted by yourself. So you knew from day one that this is the way you wanted to go. And it was really quite funny because when I was talking to you and I said Granada, and you're like, what are you talking about? Because I knew about it, because I've also just been, I met Bridget late last year, and she spoke about St. George's to me, and I was like, wow, what a great opportunity, and what a great thing for somebody who knows they want to be a doctor, you know, because but you've still got to accept that kind of stuff there. So pretty awesome, well done, congratulations, you're gonna hit away. But here we go again.
Yeah.
So now you have just established your little roots here in New Zealand, and now off you go. And the Granada program, so the St. George's program, is a little bit different. As you said before, you're not in one place, you're all over the place essentially. So in 2 weeks time, isn't it? It's basically 2 weeks time you're head away, or
next
10
week
days.
Thursday. So
next
like
week Thursday you head away.
days.
Yeah, and where do you head away? Where's your first stint?
Okay, let's do it. So next week Thursday I'm leaving to the UK. So my first 3 years, so my entire course is 6 years long. My first 3 years, which is 2 years of kind of preclinical, pre-med phase, and first year of med, is in the UK. It's in Newcastle. It's like north of London. My campus is there. So those are my first 3 years. Then my fourth year, which is sort of like the middle of the program, is when I moved to Grenada, which is the original campus of St. George's. So that's in the Caribbean islands. And that's the untraditional like pathway for that St. George's has. But I honestly, I'm not being biased, I honestly think it's amazing because you get that sort of rural experience. You know, Grenada is a really rural place. You get that rural experience and kind of different sense of community. And I recently started saying that Hawke's Bay, where I used to live, is like Grenada. And I loved it in Hawke's Bay. I loved the little community, the little small family that everyone was in. And I think Grenada and Hawke's Bay are so similar. So I'm very excited to go to Grenada. And I think that rural experience, that sort of being away from like modern city, will be really good. Both trying to grow as a person and in like your medicine history. And then my last 2 years are in the US for my clinical rotations, which is where I hope to practice as a physician when I graduate.
Awesome. So a nice long pathway coming up. So you said Hawke's Bay and Granada are the same. One big difference though, Rishita, Granada's got snakes. They've got snakes.
Yeah,
you know that about right?
Consider,
You know that, right? Hawke's Bay's got no snakes.
I do. Yeah.
It's pretty funny. When I was talking to Bridget about Granada, they spoke about the big snake problem that they have there. So that'll be fun. That'll be fun. That'll be entertaining.
I'm
But no,
excited.
that's really cool. That's really awesome for you. Let's turn it back a little bit now. So let's think about your passion about equity in healthcare. So now you withdrew from Auckland for a while, and while you've been, I guess, not studying, but doing other things, what has been a project that's been really passionate for you over the last few months that you've been carrying, or that's been your thing?
So not necessarily one project, just sort of
Yeah.
many minor projects along the way. So I was working part-time at a pharmacy, which is of course related to healthcare, and community pharmacy. So giving back to the community and learning so much about medicines and like patient health and confidentiality, which has been amazing. Other thing is World Vision. I was leading the 40-hour famine, which is a big part of World Vision New Zealand in high school last year. So I was the leader for that, which is what inspired me to apply to the advocacy positions of leadership at World Vision. And that one is very part-time. It's very minor, as in it doesn't take up all of your time. So I knew that wherever I would go, I would still be able to do that. So I was really looking forward to that. So I knew that's one thing I should apply to, which was the World Vision Advocacy Ambassadors Program. And the other thing, because I still wanted to keep my passion for volunteering or fired up, was that I was volunteering at Middlemore Hospital, just the local hospital here. Whenever I got time, I just go into the hospital, spend the day there, and just guide patients to where they need to be. And I love I know I shouldn't say, but like the hospital environment. And I knew that that's what I want to do when I grow up, and being there for patients in like their most vulnerable days and their most lowest times, and helping them in any sort of way, whether it's just like giving them a glass of water or anything to bring a smile on their faces, was super fulfilling for me.
Beautiful. I love that, because each one of those is linked just to humanity, and also healthcare is the thread that weaves through it all. And what does your poor family think? I mean, when I say poor family, I mean, like, here you are, they've done all the stuff here, and now they call, see you later, off you go. I'm obviously proud of you. So I'm just trying to think about, they go, right, cool, see you later. Thanks for your last 18 years. Off you go. What has it been like? Yeah. What has it been like for them?
Honestly,
maybe we should ask them. We should probably ask them, not you.
Maybe we should ask them.
They've been great. They've been great, but actually, they're like, actually, the truth is.
Actually,
yeah.
It's literally been an emotional roller coaster. Like, here I am, like, I want to chase my dreams, but also like being so far away from home. And whenever someone asks me, how I'm feeling, I always say that I'm kind of used to the instability that comes with like moving around so much, like, from India back in 2015, moving around everywhere. So I feel like that transition will come easy to me, like new place, new country, here we go again, what, fifth time, the thing that I'm like worried about is all of this time I've been moving with my family and I've had that support of family, but this time it's just me moving. So I'm not gonna have my family with me. And yes, the transition is similar to like India, South Africa, New Zealand, new place, new everything. But this is like med school. It's what I want to do. It's my dreams. And my family won't be there. It's just going to be me by myself. So that's one thing I'm really worried about. That's the new change for me, but also very exciting. Like, not even just being independent, like being able to chase my dreams. I know a lot of people don't get the opportunity to do that. And in the UK, that's like really far from home, but I'm really excited.
Beautiful. That's really fantastic. Rishita, we've been talking for almost 45 minutes to an hour, actually. I say an hour. So we have a tradition in our podcast. Our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge. We like to ask our guests to give us one piece of knowledge to put into our basket, so mine and Tane's basket, but also in the basket of all our listeners, based on anything from your life, whether it's all the moving you've done, the healthcare stuff, the volunteering work that you've done. Yeah, it's over to you.
One piece of knowledge. Oh my gosh.
Well, you can have two. You can have two, just because we're nice today.
Two? Okay. Okay. I'd say like a big motto in my life is like, just do it. like Nike, you know, just YOLO it, because like when else would you have the chance to do it, you know? Like if not now, when? So if you see something and you want to do it, a rule that I have, I literally do this in my mind. I like count to three. So I know it's very impulsive, but I count to three and I just do it. Like, do I want to do this or not? Like 1, 2, 3. Okay, first thing that pops up is yes. So like just do it, you know, like it's always yes, the answer. Other thing I'd say is have a positive mindset to everything and just believe in yourself. Like I know that if I thought I wouldn't be able to do it, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be doing any of this. I wouldn't be able to speak to you about any of this, about my story. But because I've been sort of focused on my goal, because I know that no matter how hard this is, no matter where I go, this is what I want to do. So I had that mindset ready. I had that positive mindset that no matter where I am, how far I am, like wherever I am, whatever's going on, this is what I want to do. And I focused on that goal. I focused on being positive, and literally, like, if you think you can do it, there's a reason why you're thinking that. So you definitely can do it. So if you think you want to do it, just go for it. Just like where there's a will, there's a way, you know? So just do it.
Beautiful. I love that. 3, 2, 1. Just do it. Fantastic. And I'm going to put the goal context as well into what I think about it. I think we all have goals. Every one of us has goals, but we all don't have the mindsets. You know, we all don't have the mindsets. You know, like you said, it's a positive mindset. Everyone's got a goal. Everyone has a goal in life. I mean, no one wakes up without a goal. Whatever the goal is, it could be. And again, there's no positive, negative goal. There's just a goal. You know. And then it's just about the mindset you have about that goal there. But also, like you said before, it's not just about the mindset around the goal, it's also about the actions that you're going to be taking. So what do I mean by that there? The goal is here, and lots of people get caught up in the how. How am I going to get there? You know, but if you think about your story, your goal is to get into med school. If you got caught up in the how I was going to get there, you wouldn't have worried about St. George's. You would have been like, oh no, you're right, cool, this is med school, the St. George's offer came up to you, you're right, cool, I'm going to do it. So I think let's not forget about the how and the what. Let's just focus on the why. And for you, for a lot of people, they don't have the mindset, they don't have a strong why. But once you have that, then everything else just falls into place. However, you know, some people say manifestation, some people say faith, whatever it is, whatever we believe in. But you've got to do a bit of work as well.
Whatever gets you there, exactly.
You have to do some work as well. You can't be using crystals because it's not going to work. Just kidding.
I just hope for it, but like that's the start to it, right? Like if you start to have faith in yourself, if you believe in yourself, like that's all you need. Like you don't need anyone else to have that. You just need your push, your faith, your fire, you know? That's all you need. So yeah,
totally. Gonna pass it over to Tane. Tane, have you any questions for Rishita before we do a bit of a dance?
Oh, I can't think of any questions. I think you've asked plenty of questions, but it's been awesome to get to know a bit more about Rashita's journey and where she's going now, but also, you know, how she has got to where she is today. Because I think, you know, sometimes we almost forget about all the hard work it takes to get to where we want to be. You know, it's so easy to be like, it's awesome that I'm finally here and I'm finally doing what I'm doing. But it's all that underlying stuff that you've done over the last few years, which has gotten you to where you are today. So that's really cool to hear about. And I like that piece of knowledge about if not now, when, because I think, you know, again, sometimes it's too easy to chuck things into the too hard basket because we've got all these other things going on. But if you're not going to do it now, then exactly. When are you going to do it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I love that because I'm just going to full circle this year. If not now, when? It goes back to what you said right at the start, Tane. You said, you know, if not now, when? Sometimes we go, oh, I'm too busy to do it right now. You know, your if not becomes busy, and then I'm not going to do it. So if not now, when? Hey, actually, when you start saying you're busy, because that's the first thing that comes to mind. If not now, when? And you know, that's a beautiful way to round the podcast here. We started off with that question which Tane spoke about, is learning, and you're learning as well. Boom, beautiful. What a great basket of knowledge right here. Rishita, any last comments from you before we say goodbye to you?
No, I'm just like, I love your Mahi. Like your work is so amazing. Both of you so inspiring. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for your time.
No worries. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving up your time and jumping on here on a Wednesday afternoon. Beautiful. So to our listeners out there, before I talk to my listeners, Rishita, thank you so much for jumping on. Thank you, Tane and myself. Really appreciate you jumping on here. We've both learned a lot today. I know our listeners have learned a lot, and if they haven't, they've got to listen to the podcast because there's tons of knowledge here. So thank you for jumping on. For our listeners out there, thank you for jumping on again. For regular listeners here, hopefully you keep jumping back. For our new listeners, hopefully you found something interesting here today, and you find that this is actually a podcast that we do out of passion. Trying to myself get no money from here. We get nothing from here apart from just wanting to share these amazing stories, which we think would be pretty sad if they're just locked away in someone's brain and not shared for the whole world to listen to. So for myself and Tane, thank you very much. And remember, as you always say, don't forget to put one piece of knowledge in your basket every single day. Till next time, ka kite. Bye, everybody. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.